Hello. Thank you for inviting me to your gathering today. I'm very honored. My name is Bertica Garcia Dubus. If you know me, you might know me as Tiki. I am a parishioner of St. Timothy's Catholic Church. I am originally from the Dominican Republic and have been in the United States for many years, most of my life. I came to Arizona in 1985 and I have been a parishioner of St. Tim's ever since. Before that, I studied in Chicago. That's where I got my fine arts degree. I studied with in a Dominican school, Adrian Dominican sisters. And after that, I continued my studies in different places and institutions, and also received one-on-one training with a painter who is really the one that helped me define my style. My medium is oil on canvas, and my style is what you would call realistic. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you, share some of my work with you. You might not be able to see all the details very well in the video, so I will either send a separate document with stills of the paintings that I shared with you today, or I will try to somehow incorporate them into the video. So I will begin by talking to you a little bit about this painting. This is Christ's Crucifixion. I was inspired to paint it in this way after one time that I was at taking some photos at the altar at St. Tim's for another project, another painting. And as I walked around it from below, I was looking, and then I thought, oh, I don't think I've ever seen Jesus from this side. But I kept thinking, I wonder, somebody could have been on that side and looked up at him when he was on the cross. So I thought it was just going to make it a different angle, more interesting. Ever since I've been painting, working on religious work, I have received comments, and I have asked for comments and advice from people that know about the subject, and one of them is Bishop Olmsted. And so when I was still working on this painting, I showed it to him, and he pointed out to me, he noticed that the wounds of the hands and of the feet, they're actually not showing in my painting. And I cannot tell you that I intended for that to happen. It just sort of happened. And I think that sometimes, and I believe other artists might agree and might feel the same way, sometimes there are so many things that happen in a work of art that are not necessarily like a conscious decision, but somehow, it just works out that way. And I like to believe that it's the Holy Spirit's guidance. But I don't know that everybody does, but that's how I like to interpret it. In any event, the wounds, he pointed out the wounds were not showing, but only the one that was showing was the one on his side. So he did talk about, he said, I recommend that you add water, and he said about how we know the blood and water flowed out of his side. And so I did, and he also said that it looked like Jesus was sleeping, which, I don't know, it gave me a feeling of rest. When I paint, colors, of course, are super important in a painting, and I intended to make dark colors in the bottom and light colors on top, just to kind of signify that by his death and resurrection, we were taken from dark unto light. I believe that everybody has a conversation with the work of art and their own interpretation. So I don't like to give a lot of my thoughts to people. I think that that's something that should be left for for the observers. I titled the painting The Holy Bridge, and the reason why I did that was because at the time I was studying about St. Catherine of Siena. I was reading about her, becoming her friend. She was becoming my friend. And one of the things that she spoke about in her dialogue was that when one time Jesus appeared and he told her that he was the bridge. So I just thought that that was like a good symbol to incorporate into the crucifixion. So as long as we're talking about St. Catherine, this is my painting. This is a print. I don't have the original with me. The original is presently at the diocese, which I think is awesome. Has such a good home. I painted St. Catherine right about the same time as I was reading and learning about her, and in reading kind of helped me, bring more into my painting, even though it might not be something that is obvious, but it does help me intellectually to do what I think a better job. One of the things that St. Catherine is noted for, and you might see a lot of other artists that have painted her, they have her hold lilies, white lilies in her hand. The lily is a symbol of purity, and that she was. In my painting, I added in the background, which might be difficult to see, but there's like a road that leads to a city, an ancient city in Italy. She did a lot of traveling. That's what that is in the background. I also would like to share this other, it's also a print. And this, you will know, it's St. Michael the Archangel. I was inspired to paint St. Michael because of our recognition of his power at St. Tim's. And when in order to paint him, I looked at several images of other artists had done. And that is the reason why this painting kind of resembles an icon. And but unlike iconography, it's not the image is more realistic. It's not so elongated and stylized as we normally see the icons. And one of the things that to me is a great interest point about this painting was that also speaking with Bishop Olmsted, and when I showed him my painting in progress, he asked me if it was okay for him to make a comment, and of course, what do you say to the bishop? So I said yes. And what had been happening was that for the spear, what I used was what I had as a model was a broomstick, and I asked my son to pose in the pose of Saint Michael that I was doing, and so I painted the sphere, the pole of the broomstick, which was quite thick in diameter. So what Bishop Olmsted said was that when you think about the St. Michael destroying evil, it's not the weapon that makes a difference, because the power to destroy evil really comes from God. So the thickness or the strength of the weapon should be shown as being small, so thin. So I went back and I, of course, changed his weapon and made it as a very thin reed instead of having that big heavy thing, which is probably what we would need, me at least. At the bottom, I chose not to show like the face of the dragon. I kind of wanted the attention to stay up here, and again, as far as my colors go, I try to have have the colors have some significance to the message. And so the bottom is a bit darker, and there are some flames in the background of the painting, which might not be obvious in the print. And then, of course, towards the top is the light on the painting. So that was my intention. The next painting I want to show you is this skull of a ram. This the subject matter was was possible because of Father John Grepp allowed me to borrow it. So, well, in one of his travels and excursions in the mountains, he found the skull, and he had cleaned it up and polished it and made it super beautiful. And if you might have been there the weekend that he used it and incorporated it into his homily. So I just thought it would be just an interesting subject matter, and he was kind enough to let me borrow it. I titled it Abraham's Sacrifice, and it goes back to the story in Genesis where God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, and of course, you know how the story goes. But if you need a refresher, that's where it is, Genesis 22. Wanted to do the background as to make it look like the colors of fire, but without flames, just kind of give the illusion of fire. And the one thing I'd like to point out on this painting is that, as with so many things in nature, when we carefully look at them and we see how they are made, it's just such a demonstration of God's power and his perfection in everything that he does. And looking at the bones and the way that one falls on the other, and some of them were so extremely delicate. And I just think that it's just magnificent, and gives me great joy to really take a look and try to reproduce that. I do tell my students that painting or drawing anything from nature, it really allows you, or anything really, it really allows, it's an incredibly good learning tool, because it gives your brain the opportunity to really understand how things are. So it kind of helps us remember. I don't think I'll ever forget anything that I have drawn or painted. So you can tell your children to pay attention in art class. Okay, so this is another painting I wanted to share with you, and this is the Scottsdale Mission Church, and I don't know if you have had a chance to go by there. It's on Miller, I believe. This is a painting that was actually requested by the Sacred Art Gallery. I went down there with, I needed a good photograph of the building in order to paint it. When I don't normally paint outdoors on site, especially when these things are going to take a long time. And I am very, it's a huge help for me to have good photographs. So I asked a friend of ours who is an amazing photographer, Father Charlie Gorayev, to help me and take a photo of this for me. So we went down there, and the interesting things, every painting has a story. This one, we were setting up, and when we got there trying to find the right angle, the way that the sun was hitting the building so that I could have interesting shadows, etc. I realized that there was not a single cloud on the sky. The sky was completely blue. And I remarked to him, I said, oh, that's too bad, because I love to paint clouds. And I said, I'm gonna have to take, I have lots of photos of clouds. I said, I'll have to take one of my other photos and incorporate the clouds in the background, so that'll be okay. However, while we were setting up, he was setting up the camera, and we were kind of trying all of a sudden, we looked up, and 5 minutes, there was this formation of clouds in the sky that then we had to hurry up and take the photo before the clouds decided to move on. But they were all like lined up like that, almost as pointing to give. This is something that artists have the freedom to do when they're painting, but not when they're taking photos. So this diagonal lines kind of gave it almost like it immediately brings your eye to the main subject. So I thought that was just amazing. There's another thing that, and this really was in the photograph. There's a beam of light that I kind of accentuated with paint. There was a beam of light that was just happened because of the way the lighting was that day. And what this little window here in the front of the church is a confessional. So I thought that was pretty significant. So I added the beam. And this painting is going back to the art gallery. I have it because I needed to do a little touch up on one area. So that's why I have it, but it's going back. So if you go and it's there, then you can see all these things I'm talking about. The last painting I'm going to share with you is this one. So this, I love to paint flowers because I think that when you look at a flower and you see the order of everything that is part of the flower, the petals, the nucleus, the way that, it depends if you're holding it under light, you can see that, how the shadows project and the highlights reflect. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And again, it's another way to realize the magnificence of creation. It was Pope Benedict the 16th. He is probably still quite a supporter of the arts. And I had read something years ago when he was still the Pope, that that he talked about beauty, truth, and goodness as how that is what our Catholic Church is, and how it can so well be represented through art. So that is my goal. And so this painting, as I was painting it, and I studied it a little bit. Then this nucleus here is like a 3-part, like a hard shell. And when the flower dries and the nucleus goes to the ground, it breaks open, and then a bunch of little plants grow from the seeds. So I titled this painting Life. And that is, as I have come to understand that most people don't really see things. They might look at things, but most people don't stop to really see. And I think that when we do that, when we do take the moment to really appreciate things, it just brings not only great joy, but it just brings a different dimension to our experience. So my goal through my art and through my teaching is to help people see and to perhaps come to appreciate the glory of God and love Him more. So thank you again for having me. I wish you all a very blessed day, and I hope your life is filled with health and happiness and joy. Thank you again. Bye-bye.